past is over. It has no power except the power you give it. Every single moment you spend replaying yesterday is a moment you're stealing from your own peace, your own joy, your own life. And I'm not going to let you do that anymore. Not today. You see, you've been taught that holding on to pain makes you loyal, that remembering every hurt keeps you safe, that dwelling on mistakes will somehow prevent new ones. But it's all a lie. The only thing your pain is protecting you from is your own happiness. Today we're going to change that. Today you're going to learn that letting go isn't forgetting, it's freeing. And freedom, my dear friend, is your birthright. Now, I know you're sitting there and part of you wants to believe what I'm saying, but another part of you is already arguing with me. You're thinking about all the reasons why your situation is different, why you can't just let go, why it's not that simple, and you're right about one thing, it's not always easy. But it is simple. And if you'll stay with me for the next hour or so, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. When you finish watching this video, you're going to walk away with something precious. You're going to understand why your mind keeps pulling you back to yesterday, and you're going to learn the exact thought patterns that keep you imprisoned in old pain. You'll discover how to recognize when you're living in the past instead of the present, and I'll give you a simple question that brings you right back to now. We're going to talk about the healing power of forgiveness, not for the people who hurt you, but for yourself, because that's the master key that unlocks every door. I'm going to teach you how to use mirror work and affirmations to rewrite the story you've been telling yourself for years. And you're going to understand that releasing the past doesn't mean forgetting it. It means freeing yourself from its grip so you can finally live. I know your pain because I've lived it. You wake up tired even after a full night's sleep because your mind has been fighting old battles all night long. You try to move forward, but it's like there's some invisible rope pulling you backward into old hurts, old fears, old stories that play over and over like a broken record. You've tried to just get over it, but you don't know how, and part of you wonders if you even deserve to be free. You feel guilty when you're happy because you think happiness means you've forgotten the lessons or betrayed your pain somehow. You're exhausted from carrying all this weight, but you don't know how to put it down without feeling like you're abandoning yourself. Darling, I see you. I was you. I spent years of my own life trapped in yesterday. I carried rage toward my stepfather, resentment toward my mother, shame about my past, and criticism toward myself that was so vicious I could barely function. I would wake up and immediately the voice would start. You're not good enough. You're damaged. You don't deserve love. And the voice was right about one thing. As long as I believed it, I couldn't experience love. But then one day I discovered something that changed everything. I could choose different thoughts. I could speak to myself with kindness. I could forgive the past and step into peace. Now, what makes this approach different from everything else you've tried? I'm not going to tell you to just think positive and pretend the pain didn't happen. I'm not going to give you complicated psychological theories or make you analyze your past for years and years. What I'm going to give you is something much simpler and much more powerful. The truth about how your mind works and the practical tools to work with it instead of against it. This isn't therapy. This isn't religion. This is spiritual common sense. Your thoughts create your feelings. Your feelings create your experiences. And you have the power, right now, to choose different thoughts. It's not about denying reality. It's about refusing to live in a reality that's already over. Instead of waking up with dread, you're going to open your eyes feeling curious about the day ahead. Instead of seeing yourself through the lens of past mistakes, you're going to look in the mirror and actually like the person looking back. Instead of relationships replaying old wounds, you're going to create new patterns based on love and respect. Instead of your body carrying the stress of decades, you're going to feel lighter, freer, more alive. The universe has brought you here today because you're ready. You might not feel ready. You might feel broken or stuck or hopeless. But trust me, you wouldn't be here if you weren't ready for this shift. There's something in you that knows peace is possible. There's something in you that's tired of suffering. That something is your inner wisdom, and today we're going to listen to it. So settle in, get comfortable, open your heart just a little bit. Because in the next hour, you're going to learn how to leave yesterday behind and walk into the peace that's been waiting for you all along. Let me tell you about the morning that changed my life. I was in my late 40s, standing in front of a mirror in my bathroom, and for the first time, I really looked at myself. Not at my hair or my clothes or whether I needed makeup. I looked into my own eyes, and what I saw broke my heart. I saw pain, I saw shame, I saw a woman who had been running from herself for decades. You see, I had spent my entire life up to that point blaming everyone else for my unhappiness. My stepfather for abusing me, my mother for not protecting me, my ex-husbands for not loving me right, my employers for not appreciating me. I had a list, darling, and it was long, and I thought that list proved I was right, that I was the victim and they were the villains. But standing there that morning, something shifted. I realized that holding on to all that blame wasn't hurting them. It was killing me. I had cancer at the time, and I knew, deep in my soul, that my cancer was the physical manifestation of years of bitter thoughts, of refusing to forgive, of holding on to resentment like it was a precious jewel. My body was literally eating itself alive with the same energy I had been using to eat myself alive mentally and emotionally. I had been so busy being right, so committed to my story of victimhood, that I had poisoned my own cells with bitterness. And in that moment, I made a choice. I looked into my own eyes, and I said, I am willing to change. I am willing to release the past. I am willing to forgive. I didn't believe it completely, not yet, but I was willing. And that willingness opened a door I didn't even know existed. That willingness was the tiny crack that let the light in. And once you let even a little bit of light in, it starts to grow. It starts to illuminate all the dark corners you've been hiding in. It begins to show you that there's another way, a better way, a way that doesn't involve constant suffering. Now, you might be thinking, but Louise, you don't know what happened to me. You don't know how bad it was. And you're right, I don't know your specific story, but I know pain. And I know that pain doesn't play favorites. Let me tell you about some of the people I've met along the way, because their stories might sound familiar to you. I met a woman once who hadn't slept through the night in 7 years. 7 years. She would lie awake replaying a phone conversation with her daughter, an argument that had ended with her daughter saying, "I hate you, Mom. I never want to speak to you again." And she hadn't. 7 years of silence. 7 years of this mother torturing herself every single night, rewriting the script in her head, trying to figure out what she should have said differently. When she told me this, her whole body was shaking. She looked exhausted, not just tired, but soul-deep exhausted. Like she'd been carrying a mountain on her back for so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. And I asked her, "Have you tried to reach out to your daughter?" She said, "Hundreds of times. She won't respond." So I asked her the question that changed everything. "Then why are you still having the argument in your head every night? Why are you giving your power to a conversation that ended 7 years ago?" She looked at me like I had spoken a foreign language. "Because," she said, "if I stop thinking about it, if I stop trying to fix it in my mind, then I'm giving up on her." And there it was. The belief that was keeping her imprisoned. She thought her suffering was a form of love. She thought her sleepless nights were proof of her devotion. She thought that by torturing herself, she was somehow staying connected to her daughter. But I told her what I'm going to tell you. Suffering is not love. Torturing yourself is not loyalty. Your pain does not prove your care. What it proves is that you're human and you're hurting. But you don't have to stay there. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. You don't have to destroy your own peace to prove you care. We worked together using affirmations and forgiveness practices. Every morning she would look in the mirror and say, "I release my daughter with love. I trust that she is on her own journey. I choose peace for myself." Every night before bed, she would say, "I did my best today. I am a good mother. I release this day and welcome peaceful sleep." It wasn't easy at first. She would cry. She would resist. Her mind would scream that this was wrong, that she was abandoning her daughter. But she kept going. She chose peace over suffering. She chose to trust instead of control. And within 2 months, she was sleeping through the night. Within 6 months, her daughter reached out. Not because the mother was suffering, but because the mother had finally found peace. Because when you change your energy, when you stop sending out desperation and guilt, you create space for something new to enter. You create space for miracles. You see, when we release our grip on the past, when we stop demanding that it be different than it was, something miraculous happens. We create space for new possibilities. We stop being the person who's constantly reliving old pain, and we become the person who's available for new joy. Let me tell you about another person I met. There was a man in one of my workshops, successful businessman, beautiful family, everything most people would want. But inside, he was miserable. Every morning he would look in the mirror and hear his father's voice. "You're a failure. You'll never amount to anything. You're a disappointment." His father had been dead for 15 years, but the voice was louder than ever. I asked him to close his eyes and really listen to that voice, to hear it fully. And then I asked him, "Is that your voice?" He opened his eyes, confused. "No," he said, "it's my father's voice." And I said, "Exactly. So why are you letting a dead man run your life?" He started to cry, big, body-shaking sobs, because he realized that he had been so loyal to his father's opinion of him that he hadn't even questioned whether it was true. He had taken on his father's criticism as his identity, and he'd been living it out for decades. He'd been trying to prove his father wrong by becoming successful, but no amount of success could silence that voice, because he was still operating from his father's framework. He was still letting his father define what success meant, what worthiness meant, what being a man meant. We started working with the mirror. Every day, he would look at himself and say, "I release my father's voice. I claim my own voice. I approve of myself." At first, he could barely get the words out without crying. The resistance was enormous. Every old belief would come rushing up. "Who do you think you are? You're nothing without me. You'll fail if you stop listening to me." But slowly, day by day, his own voice got stronger, and his father's voice got quieter. He started to realize that he could honor his father, he could even love his father without carrying his father's pain. He could remember his father without being defined by his father's limitations. The last time I heard from him, he wrote me a letter. He said, "Louise, I finally understand that loving my father doesn't mean carrying his pain. I can honor him and still choose peace. I can remember him and still be free. I can be grateful for what he gave me and release what doesn't serve me. And now when I look in the mirror, I hear my own voice, and my voice is kind." That's what I want you to understand today. Letting go of the past isn't about denying it or betraying it. It's about refusing to let it define your present. It's about taking back your power to create your own life instead of living out someone else's script. I need to tell you about my relationship with my mother because it taught me the deepest lesson about forgiveness. My mother stood by while my stepfather abused me. She didn't protect me. She didn't believe me. And for years, decades really, I hated her for it. My hatred was like a fire inside me, burning so hot that sometimes I thought it would consume me completely. But hatred is exhausting. It takes so much energy to hate someone, to hold on to that level of rage and resentment. You have to feed it constantly. You have to remember every slight, every betrayal, every moment of pain. You have to build a case and maintain it, and present it to yourself over and over. It's like having a full-time job that you hate but you won't quit. And eventually, I got tired. Not tired of being angry, tired of myself, tired of what that anger was doing to my life, to my relationships, to my body, to my peace. I was in my 40s, and I had cancer, and I was alone, and I was bitter, and I realized that my hatred of my mother was actually just hatred of myself, wearing a different mask. So I started doing something radical. I started sending love to my mother, not because she deserved it, at least that's what I thought at first, but because I needed it. Every time I thought of her, instead of letting myself spiral into rage, I would consciously send her love. Just the thought, "I send you love, Mother," over and over and over, even when I didn't mean it. Even when everything in me was screaming that she didn't deserve love, that I didn't deserve to let go of my justified anger. And you know what happened? I started to see her differently. Not as a monster, but as a broken woman who did the best she could with what she knew at the time. I started to understand that her inability to protect me came from her own pain, her own fear, her own lack of love for herself. She couldn't give me what she didn't have. How could she stand up for me when she couldn't even stand up for herself? How could she see my worth when she couldn't see her own? This didn't excuse what happened. Let me be very clear about that. Understanding someone's pain doesn't excuse their actions, but it released me from being chained to those actions. It freed me from the prison I'd built out of my own bitterness. When I finally had the courage to speak with my mother about my childhood, she was elderly and frail, and I said to her, "Mom, I need you to know that I've been angry at you for many years, but I'm choosing to release that anger now. I forgive you, and I forgive myself for holding on to this pain for so long." She cried. I cried. And something ancient and heavy between us finally dissolved. It was like a rope that had been tying us together in pain suddenly broke, and we were both free. We could finally just be two human beings, two women, two souls, without all that history weighing us down. She died not long after that conversation. And I am so grateful, so deeply, endlessly grateful that I didn't wait any longer, that I chose peace while there was still time. Because I could have died holding on to that hatred. I could have died bitter and angry and convinced I was right, and I would have wasted my entire life. Now, I'm not saying you need to have that conversation with everyone who hurt you. Sometimes the person is gone, or unsafe, or unwilling. Sometimes reaching out would cause more harm than good. But what I am saying is this: you can still have that conversation within yourself. You can still choose forgiveness. You can still find peace. The other person doesn't have to participate in your healing. Your healing is your choice, and it belongs to you alone. Let me tell you one more story before we move forward. I want you to understand that this isn't just about big traumas or major betrayals. This is about all the ways we stay stuck in yesterday, even the small ways. There was a woman I worked with who was so sweet, so kind to everyone around her. But she couldn't stop replaying this one moment from 10 years earlier when she'd given a presentation at work and forgotten an important point. Just one presentation 10 years ago. And she would lie awake at night replaying it, cringing, feeling that wash of embarrassment all over again. I said to her, "Darling, do you think anyone else even remembers that presentation?" She said, "Probably not." I said, "So why are you still there? Why are you standing on that stage every night, reliving that moment when everyone else moved on a decade ago?" She said, "Because I can't forgive myself, because I should have been better, because it proved I'm not good enough." And there it was. She wasn't punishing herself for what happened. She was punishing herself for not being perfect. She was using one moment from 10 years ago as evidence for a belief she'd held since childhood. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm going to be found out. We worked on self-forgiveness. Every time the memory came up, instead of diving into shame, she would say, "I forgive myself for being human. I forgive myself for not being perfect. I did my best with what I knew at the time." And slowly, the memory lost its power. It became just a thing that happened, not a defining moment of her unworthiness. You see, that's what happens when we can't let go of the past. We're not actually mad about what happened. We're using what happened as evidence for beliefs we already hold about ourselves. the event becomes the proof. See, I told you I was unlovable. See, I told you I always mess things up. See, I told you I can't trust anyone. But what if those beliefs aren't true? What if you've been collecting evidence for a case that was false from the beginning? What if you're actually lovable, capable, and trustworthy, but you've just been telling yourself a different story for so long that you believe it? That's what we're here to change today. Not just the memories, but the meaning you've attached to them. Not just what happened, but what you've decided it means about you. Let me share another story that shows how powerful this shift can be. I once worked with a young man who had been betrayed by his best friend in business. His friend had stolen his ideas, taken credit for his work, and left him financially devastated. This young man was consumed with anger. He would spend hours imagining revenge, planning what he would say if he ever saw his former friend again, rehearsing confrontations that would never happen. When we started working together, I asked him, "How much time do you spend thinking about this person?" He said, "Honestly, probably 3 or 4 hours a day." I said, "So you're giving this person who betrayed you 3 to 4 hours of your life every single day? You're letting him live rent-free in your mind, taking up space that could be used for joy, for creativity, for building something new?" He looked stunned. He'd never thought of it that way. He thought his anger was protecting him, keeping him sharp, making sure he'd never be fooled again. But all it was doing was keeping him stuck in a moment that was 2 years in the past while his life was happening right now. We worked on forgiveness, not because his friend deserved it, but because he deserved freedom. And within months, he started a new business venture. Within a year, he was thriving. And you know what the beautiful part was? He told me that one day he ran into his former friend at a conference, and instead of the rage he expected to feel, he felt nothing, just neutral, just peaceful. The person who had once taken up so much space in his mind was now just another person walking through the world. That's the freedom forgiveness brings. Not that you forget, not that you excuse, but that you no longer give your power away to people and events that are in the past. So, now let's talk about why it's so hard to let go of the past. Because if it were easy, you would have done it already, wouldn't you? There's something in us that holds on, even when holding on hurts. And understanding this is the first step to freedom. Your mind prefers a familiar pain to an unknown peace. It's true. Even if yesterday was terrible, at least you know it. You know the players, you know the plot, you know how the story goes. You know what to expect. You know how to navigate it, even if navigating it means suffering. But the present moment, that's uncertain, that's new, that's unpredictable. And your mind, bless it, thinks it's protecting you by keeping you in familiar territory. Your mind is like an overprotective parent who won't let you leave the house because something bad might happen outside. It doesn't understand that something bad is already happening inside. It doesn't understand that familiar doesn't mean safe. Comfortable doesn't mean good. Just because you've been suffering in a certain way for 20 years doesn't mean you need to suffer that way for the next 20. The other reason we cling to yesterday is because we've made it our identity. Think about it. How many times have you introduced yourself, either out loud or in your own mind, through your pain? I'm a survivor of abuse. I'm someone whose parents abandoned them. I'm a person who can't trust because I was betrayed. I'm the one who always gets hurt. I'm the one things don't work out for. Now, I'm not saying your experiences didn't happen. They did. They were real and they were painful, and I honor that. But you are not your experiences. You are the consciousness experiencing them. You are the awareness that witnesses them. You are the divine being having a human journey. And that consciousness, that beautiful, powerful, eternal consciousness, can choose to identify with something other than pain. You can be someone who was abused and is now healing. You can be someone whose parents abandoned them and is now learning to nurture yourself. You can be someone who was betrayed and is now choosing trust again. Do you feel the difference? Same history, different identity, same past, different present, same experiences, different meaning. Here's another reason we hold on to pain. And this is a big one. Many of us believe our suffering serves a purpose. Maybe we think it keeps us vigilant, so we won't be hurt again. Maybe we think it proves we're good people because we remember every wrong. Maybe we think releasing it means we're condoning what happened or letting someone off the hook. Maybe we think our pain is the only thing connecting us to someone we've lost. But suffering doesn't protect you. It exhausts you. Remembering every slight doesn't make you wise. It makes you bitter. And forgiving someone doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means you're choosing to stop letting their action determine your peace. It means you're choosing to stop giving them free rent in your head. Let me be very clear. You are not honoring yourself by staying stuck in yesterday. You are abandoning yourself by refusing to live in today. You are not being loyal to your past by dwelling on it. You are being disloyal to your present by ignoring it. You are not keeping yourself safe by holding on to pain. You are keeping yourself imprisoned. And here's what you need to understand about your brain. When you change your thinking patterns, you're actually creating new neural pathways. Science has proven this. It's called neuroplasticity. Your brain is not fixed. It can change at any age, at any stage of life. You're not too old. It's not too late. You haven't been broken too long. But like any change, it requires repetition. If you want to create a new path through a forest, you don't walk it once and expect it to be there forever. You walk it every day until the grass is worn down, until the path becomes clear and easy to follow. That's what we're doing with affirmations and practices. We're creating new pathways in your mind, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes, the easier it gets, until one day you realize you're not working at it anymore. You're just being it. So if these are the reasons we cling to the past, what do we do about it? How do we actually release what we've been carrying for so long? That brings us to forgiveness. And I want to talk about forgiveness in a way you probably haven't heard before. When most people hear the word forgiveness, they resist it. They say, "Louise, you don't understand. What happened to me was unforgivable, and you know what? You might be right. Some actions are terrible. Some betrayals cut so deep they change you forever. Some wounds leave scars that never fully fade. I'm not going to minimize that or pretend it's not true. But here's what I need you to understand. Forgiveness is not for them. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is how you set yourself free." Let's clear this up right now, because there's so much confusion about what forgiveness actually means. Forgiveness does not mean what happened was okay. It doesn't mean you have to say, "It's fine, no harm done, water under the bridge." Harm was done, pain was real, wrong was committed. Forgiveness doesn't change any of that. It doesn't rewrite history. It doesn't erase the facts. What forgiveness changes is your relationship to that event. It takes the event from something that's actively poisoning you in the present and turns it into something that happened in the past. Do you see the difference? When you don't forgive, you're energetically still in that moment. You're still at that dinner table where your father screamed at you. You're still in that relationship where your partner cheated. You're still in that office where you were humiliated. The calendar says it's today, but emotionally, mentally, energetically, you're living in yesterday. Forgiveness is how you leave that moment and come back to now. Forgiveness is how you reclaim your power from the past and bring it into the present. It's how you stop being a victim of your history and become the creator of your future. Here's a question that changed my life. Would you rather be right, or would you rather be free? Because you can't have both. Not really. You can spend the rest of your life proving how wronged you were, building a case, collecting evidence, getting people to agree with you, and you know what? You might be absolutely right. The court of public opinion might rule in your favor. You might have every reason to be angry, to be bitter, to hold on to your resentment. But you won't be free. You won't be at peace. You'll be a prisoner of your own justified anger. You'll have the satisfaction of being right and the misery of being chained to the past. Or you can choose freedom. You can say, "This person hurt me, and I'm choosing to release them from my mind." Not because they deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Not because what they did was okay, but because I'm done letting it define my life. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. This doesn't mean you allow further harm. You can have boundaries and still have peace. You can say no to someone and still send them love energetically. You can cut someone out of your life for your own protection and still forgive them in your heart. The two are not in conflict. In fact, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to forgive someone from a distance and never speak to them again. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. It doesn't require the other person to apologize or change or even acknowledge what they did. Forgiveness is something you do inside your own heart, for your own healing, regardless of what anyone else does or doesn't do. Now, here's where it gets really important. You also need to forgive yourself. Maybe you're carrying shame about how you responded to what happened. Maybe you're angry at yourself for staying too long, or trusting too much, or not speaking up. Maybe you're critical of yourself for not being over it yet, for still being affected, for not being stronger. Listen to me. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time. You didn't know then what you know now. You didn't have then the tools you have now. You were doing your best, even if your best looked like surviving, hiding, or shutting down. Even if your best looked like making mistakes, taking wrong turns, or falling apart. You were doing your best. Say this with me. I forgive myself for not knowing what I didn't know before I learned it. That's it. That's the whole thing. You can't be punished for not knowing something before you learned it. That's called being human. That's called growing. That's called the journey. You wouldn't criticize a child for not knowing how to read before they were taught. You wouldn't shame a baby for falling down while learning to walk. So why are you shaming yourself for not knowing how to handle situations you'd never been equipped to handle? Why are you criticizing yourself for not having tools you were never given? Forgive yourself for being human. Forgive yourself for being imperfect. Forgive yourself for all the ways you've been trying to figure this out. Because you have been trying. You haven't given up. You're here right now, listening to this, looking for answers, wanting to heal. That counts for something. That counts for everything. So how do you actually do this forgiveness work? It's simpler than you think, but it requires commitment. You start with a willingness. You don't have to feel forgiving. You just have to be willing to forgive. Say this: I am willing to release this person from my mind. I am willing to forgive. I am willing to choose peace. I might not know how yet, but I'm willing to learn. I might not feel it yet, but I'm willing to start. Then, whenever the person or event comes to mind, instead of dwelling on it, you consciously send them love. Just the thought. I send you love and I release you, over and over and over. Your mind will fight you on this. It will say, they don't deserve love. They should suffer. If I let this go, it means they won. But remember, this isn't for them. This is for you. You're not letting them off the hook. You're taking yourself off the hook. You're releasing yourself from the exhausting job of being their judge, jury, and jailer. If sending them love feels impossible, start with yourself. Say, I send love to myself for being hurt. I send love to the part of me that's suffering. I send love to my own heart. I send love to the me that was there when it happened. I send love to the me that's still carrying it. Over time, and it might take weeks or months, you'll notice something shift. The person will come to mind and your body won't tighten. The story will surface and you'll feel neutral instead of triggered. You'll think about what happened and it will just be a fact, not a wound. That's when you know the forgiveness is working. That's when you know you're free. Now, forgiveness releases you from the emotional grip of the past. But there's another element we need to address, and that's the thoughts you think about yourself every single day. Because often, the harshest critic you need to forgive, the person who's been hurting you the most, is yourself. If I could give you only one tool to transform your entire life, it would be this: learn to love yourself. Not tomorrow when you're thinner, smarter, richer, or more together. Not someday when you've finally healed all your wounds and fixed all your flaws. Right now, as you are, with all your imperfections and all your past, with all your mistakes and all your confusion. Right now, exactly as you are. Most of us were raised to believe that loving ourselves is narcissistic, self-absorbed, or vain. We were taught to put everyone else first, to sacrifice, to shrink ourselves, to make others comfortable. And especially if you experienced trauma or criticism as a child, you probably internalized the message that you're not worthy of love, especially not your own. But here's the truth that will set you free. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot love others authentically if you don't love yourself. You cannot offer genuine care if you're running on empty. You cannot be truly present for anyone if you're not present for yourself. Self-love isn't selfish. It's the foundation of everything good in your life. When you love yourself, everything changes. You make better choices. You choose relationships that honor you. You set boundaries that protect you. You speak to yourself with kindness. You treat your body with respect. You create a life that actually feels good instead of constantly seeking external validation to fill the void inside. I want to teach you one of the most powerful practices I know, and it's called mirror work. It's simple, but it's not easy. Here's what you do. Every single day, you look into your own eyes in a mirror, and you say, I love you. I really, really love you. I love you exactly as you are, and you mean it, or at least, you work on meaning it. Now, the first time you try this, you're probably going to cry, or laugh uncomfortably, or look away, or think, this is ridiculous, I can't do this. You might feel a wave of resistance so strong it makes you want to run from the room. That's normal. That resistance is all the old programming coming up, all the beliefs that you're not worthy of love, all the criticism you've internalized, all the shame you've been carrying, all the ways you've been taught that you're not enough. But you keep going. You look into your own eyes, and you say it anyway. I love you, even if you don't believe it yet, even if it feels awkward, even if tears are streaming down your face, even if your mind is screaming that this is stupid. You say it, because here's what happens. Over time, something shifts. The resistance weakens. The love gets stronger. And one day you'll look into your own eyes and feel it, really feel it. You'll see yourself the way the universe sees you, as a beloved child, worthy of every good thing, deserving of peace and joy and love. This practice will change your life more than anything else I can teach you. Don't underestimate it just because it's simple. The most powerful things in life are often the simplest. Love is simple. Breath is simple. Presence is simple. But simple doesn't mean easy, and simple doesn't mean unimportant. Let me tell you what happened to me when I started doing mirror work consistently. At first, I could barely look at myself. I would glance in the mirror and immediately look away. The face looking back at me seemed like a stranger and not a friendly one. I saw every flaw, every wrinkle, every imperfection, and the voice in my head was vicious. Look at you. You're old. You're ugly. You're unlovable. But I kept going. Every morning and every night, I would stand in front of that mirror and say, Louise, I love you. I really love you. And something miraculous started to happen. The voice got quieter. The face became more familiar. And one day, about 3 months in, I looked in the mirror and smiled, a genuine smile. And I meant the words I was saying. I actually loved the woman looking back at me. That was the day everything changed. That was the day I stopped being at war with myself. That was the day I realized that the love I had been seeking from others, the validation I had been chasing, the acceptance I had been craving, it was all available right here, in my own heart, looking back at me from my own eyes. The other part of self-love is becoming aware of how you speak to yourself. Most of us have a vicious inner critic that we would never tolerate from another person. If someone spoke to your best friend the way you speak to yourself, you'd cut them out of your life. You'd say, "Don't talk to my friend that way." You'd defend them. You'd protect them. But we give ourselves permission to be cruel to ourselves every single day. So start noticing. Pay attention to your self-talk. When you make a mistake, what do you say? When you look in the mirror, what are your first thoughts? When something goes wrong, how do you interpret it? What's the story you immediately tell yourself? And then, gently, lovingly, change it. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm such an idiot," stop and replace it with, "I'm learning and growing. I'm doing my best." When you think, "I'm unlovable," replace it with, "I am worthy of love exactly as I am." When you think, "I'll never change," replace it with, "I am changing more every day. I am evolving. I am becoming." This isn't about denying reality. It's about choosing which reality you want to create, because your thoughts become your reality. Your words become your world. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, guess what? You'll create a life that proves you're not good enough. Not because it's true, but because that's what you're focused on. That's what you're expecting. That's what you're affirming every single day. But if you tell yourself you're worthy, you're capable, you're loved, you're enough, then you'll start to see evidence of that instead. You'll start to notice opportunities you were missing before. You'll start to attract people who treat you well. You'll start to make choices that honor you. Not through magic, but through shifting your focus, your energy, your vibration. I want you to pause for just a moment and notice where you are right now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. Feel your body in your seat. Notice your breath moving in and out. Hear the sounds around you. Feel the temperature of the air on your skin. This exact moment is the only moment you actually have. And yet, most of us spend almost no time here. We're always in yesterday or tomorrow, never in today. Here's something that might blow your mind. The past doesn't exist. Not really. It did exist, but it doesn't anymore. What exists is your memory of it, your story about it, your interpretation of it, and that's all happening in your mind right now. The same is true of the future. It doesn't exist either. It might exist, but it doesn't yet. What exists is your imagination of it, your worry about it, your plans for it. And again, that's all happening in your mind right now. The only thing that actually exists is this moment. Right here, right now. This is where life is happening. This is where peace lives. This is where your power is. All of your power to choose, to change, to heal, to create exists right here in this present moment. You have no power in the past because it's already happened. You have no power in the future because it hasn't happened yet. All your power is here, now. If you want to heal your relationship with yesterday, you can only do it from today. You cannot go back in time and undo what happened. You cannot make different choices retroactively. You cannot change the past by dwelling on it. The only power you have is the power to change your relationship with those events right now, in this present moment. The only healing that can happen, happens now. So every time you catch yourself dwelling on the past, ask yourself this: what am I avoiding in the present moment by being in the past? Because that's usually what's happening. We retreat into yesterday because today feels too scary, too uncertain, too demanding. We replay old conversations because we don't want to have the conversation that's needed right now. We relive old hurts because we don't want to feel the hurt that's present today. But today is where your life is. Today is where your peace is. Today is where your power to create something new lives. No matter what happened yesterday, this moment is clean. This moment is new. This moment contains infinite possibility. You get to choose, right now, who you want to be. You don't have to be who you were yesterday. You don't have to carry yesterday's mood into today. You don't have to replay yesterday's story. Every morning when you wake up, you get a fresh start. Every moment you take a breath, you get another chance. The universe doesn't hold grudges. Life doesn't punish you for your past. Those are just stories you've been telling yourself. The truth is that life is always, always offering you an opportunity to begin again. Right now, this moment. Before we move into the practices, I want to give you one more essential truth. Peace doesn't just happen to you. You don't stumble upon it. You don't earn it after enough suffering. You don't find it waiting for you at the end of some long journey. Peace is something you choose, actively, every single day, sometimes every single moment. So many people think, I'll be at peace when my relationship gets better, when I get that job, when my health improves, when my mother finally apologizes, and they wait, and keep waiting. Meanwhile, life is passing them by. Meanwhile, today becomes yesterday. Meanwhile, the present moment slips away unused. But peace doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from your internal response to those circumstances. Two people can experience the exact same event, and one will be devastated while the other finds meaning and growth. The difference isn't what happened, it's how they chose to think about what happened. It's the meaning they assigned to it. It's the story they told themselves about it. This means you have more power than you've been giving yourself credit for. You don't have to wait for anything or anyone to change before you can have peace. You can have it right now by choosing peaceful thoughts, right now by releasing yesterday, right now by being present, right now by loving yourself, right now by forgiving, right now by choosing differently. Now, I know your mind is going to argue with this. It's going to say, but my thoughts just come, I don't choose them. And that's partially true. Thoughts do arise automatically because of conditioning and habit. Your mind is like a radio that's been set to a certain station for years. But here's where your power lies. You get to choose which thoughts you pay attention to, which thoughts you believe, which thoughts you repeat, which thoughts you build your life around. A negative thought might pop into your head. That's automatic. But whether you dwell on it, build a story around it, believe it, and act on it, that's your choice. It's like a radio playing in the background. You can't stop the radio from playing, but you can change the station. You can turn down the volume. You can walk into a different room. You have options. You have power. You have choice. This isn't about perfection. You're not going to think peaceful thoughts 100% of the time. I don't even think peaceful thoughts 100% of the time, and I've been doing this work for decades. You're going to have bad days. You're going to slip back into old patterns. You're going to forget everything I've taught you and find yourself spiraling. That's okay. That's human. That's part of the process. What matters is that you notice when it happens and you gently guide yourself back. You don't criticize yourself for slipping, you just recommit to the practice. Over and over and over. That's what creates lasting change. Not perfection, but persistence. Not getting it right every time, but getting back up every time you fall. All right, now it's time to get practical. You now have the understanding. You know why you've been stuck, what needs to shift, and how transformation actually works. Now, it's time for the tools you can use starting today, starting right now, to begin leaving yesterday behind and walking into peace. I want to give you a morning practice that will set the tone for your entire day. This is simple, but if you commit to it for 30 days, you will notice profound changes in your life. Here's what you do. Before you get out of bed, before you check your phone, before you start your to-do list, before you let the world in, you take 3 deep breaths and you say these words. Today is a new day. The past is over. I am safe. I am loved. I choose peace. Just that. Just those simple words. You can say them silently or out loud. The important thing is that you say them with intention, not just automatically. You mean them. You claim them. You declare them. Feel the words as you say them. Notice how your body responds. Does your chest expand? Do your shoulders relax? Pay attention to the shift, however small it might be. Then, As you move through your morning routine, you continue to affirm peace. When you're in the shower, you imagine yesterday washing down the drain. You visualize all the old stories, all the old pain, all the old resentments flowing away from you. See them dissolving, breaking apart, disappearing. When you're brushing your teeth, you look at yourself in the mirror and you smile at yourself. You connect with your own eyes.